Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM. We're on a number of affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We're on Radio Max in Takrady, Castle FM in Cape Coast, Buipe FM in Buipe, Dreams FM in Bolgatanga. We are live on Twitter Spaces. We are on Facebook and myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon, Supreme Court unanimously orders Parliament to expunge the name of James Jachikwason from its records as Member of Parliament for Asin North. As it rules, he failed to renounce his Canadian citizenship at the time of filing nomination.
The necessary inference is that whatever happened was null and void and of no legal effect. So Parliament cannot still keep his name on their books. But of course, the order has to be drawn and served on the Speaker, and his name will have to be expunged.
We bring you a blow-by-blow account of proceedings in court, plus High Court rules that investigative journalist Anas Arimiyao Anas will testify against former GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi in open court, but disguised in a mask. Details shortly. And signed, sealed and delivered as the IMF board formally approves Ghana's request for a $3 billion bailout today in an emergency sitting as government requests the fund to disclose and publish the full details of the agreement.
We are committed to transparency. As a result of this, the government has instructed the IMF to publish all the documents once the approval has been given.
But our business is ready for the new tax conditionalities.
The impact of the three taxes are now going to be felt. The likelihood that it will push prices up is also there. Because if a business is paying a tax, 25 different taxes, levies and charges, and you are saying that they are not paying taxes, I get worried.
We'll get to hear from some economists who say the IMF deal is simply an indictment on the country's ability to manage her resources.
Don't forget that anytime we sign up for the IMF, for me, it's an indictment on our own ability to manage the affairs of this country.
Also this afternoon, PRC increases electricity tariff by 18.36%. You ought to stay for details. We have sports.
The Professional Footballers Association of Ghana expresses optimism about the exoneration of 24 players as they await CAS verdict.
And female alcoholics consuming at Peteshi above the recommended limits. Guess where? In the Volta region.
The female alcoholics, about 66% in a suburb of the Volta region, are over drinking at Peteshi. This trend is indeed very worrying. Generally, certain distillers use rusted nails in the distillation processes.
We have that and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu, and this is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please stay on for details. Many thanks for your company. Let's start off from the Supreme Court, and it has ordered Parliament to expunge the name of James Jachikwason from its records as a Member of Parliament for Asin North. Presiding Judge Justice Jones Doche today ruled that the Electoral Commission acted unconstitutionally in allowing him to contest the 2020 parliamentary elections without proof of him renouncing his Canadian citizenship. Well, this is in the case filed by a resident of the constituency, Michael Ankuma Nimfa, who had insisted Mr. Kwason was not qualified to be a Member of Parliament. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable joins us live from the Apex Court. Joseph, so we know that this case has traveled through quite a number of legal processes. Let's first run through the key points and the decision today.
And so it starts right from December 2020 when James Jachikwason won the parliamentary elections. You know that just before he was sworn in, Michael Ankuma Nimfa, through his lawyers, secured a court order and injunction that barred him from being sworn in. If you recall, during the election of the Speaker, that issue came up in Parliament, and the conclusion was that he should be allowed to bear the consequences of his action. We know that in July 2021, a High Court in Cape Coast again ruled that his election was null and void and of no effect because of the fact that he had not received a renounced a certificate and a renunciation of his Canadian citizenship at the time he filed his nomination to contest the post. He took the matter to the Court of Appeal, and while it was before the Court of Appeal, our lawyers for Michael Ankuman, in fact, then brought this matter to the Supreme Court. We know that April 2022, the Supreme Court, by a 5-2 majority decision, granted an injunction to stop him from holding himself out as a member of Parliament pending the determination of this particular substantive case. The substantive case was simply to ask the Supreme Court to hold that after the time that he filed his nomination form, he was not qualified to contest, and so any day he remains in Parliament, an unconstitutionality takes place and it continues to take place. And this is what the Supreme Court has brought finality on a short while ago. Justice Jones Doche and Justices Nene Amegacha, Maria Mowusu, Getri Tokonu, Professor Enrita Mensah Bonsu, Emmanuel Yeni Kulendi, and Barbara Akayensu, they have ruled that James Jetty was not qualified to contest the 2020 parliamentary primaries, and as a result, they hold that the Electoral Commission acted unconstitutionally when they allowed him to contest without having a look at his renunciation certificate, with the order to Parliament that his name should be expunged from its records.
We'll get to hear reactions shortly, but take us back into the court and give us a blow-by-blow account of proceedings of how it panned out today.
Mr. Kweson's lawyers were the ones who represented him in court today. He himself was not present in court. His legal team, led by Chachuchi Kata, once the case was called.
Well, it appears that I've just lost Joseph Akwaboah there on the phone. We'll try and reconnect to my colleague Joseph Akwaboah, but he's been interacting with lawyers for Mr. Kwesin and then Michael Ankuman for the person that filed this particular case. Let's quickly hear their reactions.
We are gratified that the law lords, all the 7 of them, have agreed unanimously with the position we have held all along, and at all times material, James Kwesin was not qualified under the dictates of the Constitution of the Republic to have contested as a member of Parliament for the Asin North constituency. It's been a long road. We can all attest to the number of times we have paraded the court premises. But today, finally, the judgment has been handed, and we have a clear indication as to what the provision on dual citizenship is in respect of a contest for member of Parliament.
I mean, what do you expect to happen practically going forward? The court interestingly gave an order that his name should be expunged from the records of Parliament.
Of course, but that is a necessary consequence of the reliefs that we sought in the Supreme Court. If he wasn't qualified to have contested as a member of Parliament, of course, the necessary inference is that whatever happened was null and void and of no legal effect whatsoever. So Parliament cannot still keep his name on their books. It's a necessary consequence, but of course the order has to be drawn and served on the Speaker, and his name will have to be expunged.
That's Frank Davis there representing Michael Ankuman. Thankfully, Joseph Akwaboah joins us back on the telephone line. So, Joseph, you were telling me about proceedings in court. You mentioned that James Kwesin himself was not in. Take us through the process now.
Yes, this is led by Chachuchi Kata was present in court, and once the court led its judgment, he said that as the court is at the end of that proceeding, to realize that...
Joseph, you will have to reposition yourself so we can get all the gist. We seem to be losing you along the line.
Hello, is it better now?
Much better, Joseph. Go ahead.
Yes, and Chachuchi Kata, who is lead counsel for James Kwesin, was the one who was present in court. After proceedings, the legal team were holding a meeting, and in terms of the reactions, he simply said to the court when the court delivered his judgment that as the court pleases. What is unclear at this stage is whether they'll be considering possibly filing for a review of this particular decision. At least we've seen it in times past that when such a decision is delivered, they tend to, that is, allowing for Kwesin, go for a second bite of the cherry.
Well, we've been hearing from Frank Davis, who's lawyer for Michael Ankuman. Were you able to get a word from Mr. Chachuchi Kata and lawyers for Mr. Kwesin?
No, Emefa. We were unable to get a word from them.
But what exactly were their reactions, though? I'm sure most of them were in court.
Yes, in terms of, they didn't seem happy with this particular decision that had been delivered by the court. And from what we are picking up, we understand that filing for a review is a consideration at this stage. And so for now, we understand they are waiting for the full decision of the court. The court has indicated that next month, that is the 7th of June, is when the full ruling judgment will be made available. And so that is what they are looking forward to. But even before that comes in, we understand that they will serve notice of initiating steps for a review of this decision.
Well, Joseph, stay with me. I know you've been killing three birds with one stone in the court premises, so I'll come back to you on another case that you've been following. But we've been trying to get the NDC, the legal team, for their quick reaction on this. As and when we do, we'll bring it to you. But what is the potential that this holds for, the Parliament? Is there a by-election in the offing in the constituency? Elton Broby, a member of our political desk, joins us in studio with more on this. So, Elton, what's the next step ahead of a by-election? What exactly are we learning?
So before we get into that, we understand that the NDC leadership has called for an emergency meeting together with the lawyers that represented Mr. Kwesi during this court proceedings, and they are to take a decision on the next step forward. And that decision will come in the form of a statement to communicate to the public what the party's position will be going forward. In the absence of a review, then we expect that the registrar of the court will write to the Clerk of Parliament, communicating the decision of the Supreme Court to the Clerk of Parliament, and then the Speaker may have to refer the clerk to write to the Electoral Commission for a by-election to take place within the constituency within the next 30 days.
Okay, well, refresh our memories, though, about the results in the last parliamentary election in the Asin North constituency.
So in 2020, James Jachi Kwesi, representing the NDC, pulled 17,498, representing 52.2% of the votes, and then the MPP's candidate Abena Drowa Mensah pulled 14,193, representing 44.72% in the last elections.
Okay, thank you very much, Elton Broby, from our political desk, and the team there are particularly watching this particular incident. And there's more also on myjoyonline.com, as and when we get, we'll bring that to you. But let me head back to Joseph Akwaboah. Joseph, I also know that you've been at the High Court, and they ruled that investigative journalist Anas Arimeyaw Anas would testify against former GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi. Give us details.
And so this is an application that was made by lawyers for Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi. It is a criminal case. You know that Mr. Nyantakyi is being prosecuted on the back of the number 12 documentary. Now, Anas is supposed to be a principal witness of the state in this particular matter. The application that was done is that they wanted him to testify. They want to see his face and have him testify in open court. The court has ruled that, yes, he's going to testify in open court, not in camera, but he will be allowed to wear the bead mask that he wears in public. The court says that he has been granting interviews with that bead mask, so it appears that he's comfortable appearing in public in that particular mask. But there's an additional condition, Emefa, which is that at any time there's a court day, when he comes into the courtroom, Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi and his lawyers would have to see him in chambers and see his face to confirm that that is the individual who is coming in to testify before he puts on the mask. That is before he comes back into the public domain, that is the courtroom, with a beaded mask on, so that they ensure that every time he comes to the court, it's the same person, Anas who is coming to court, and not another person who has the beaded mask on his face. And so that is it by way of that particular decision. But there's another matter that will come up shortly. You remember the issue about Capital Bank founder William Atuesien. In a couple of minutes' time, the AG's office will be moving an application asking for custodial sentence to be imposed because he breached the terms of the repayment that he entered into with the Attorney General.
Thank you very much there, Joseph Akwaboah. That fantastic reporting from the court. We'll bring you more subsequently. Now, 10 months after Ghana formally engaged the International Monetary Fund, a deal is now signed with the board of the fund set to deliver to Ghana in the next few hours. The deal comes with a $3 billion financial package, but will be delivered in tranches, with the first $600 million expected to hit the account of the Bank of Ghana this month. The Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta, is leading a government delegation at this board meeting. Joining Just Learning, government has instructed the IMF to disclose and publish in full details the agreement and the conditionalities attached. Here's Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam.
We are committed to transparency. As a result of this, the government has instructed the IMF to publish all the documents. Once the approval has been given, the IMF must be publishing the documents. So all the documents are going to be available for the public to continue to scrutinize and also to help with monitoring. Public scrutiny is important because we are supposed to implement a number of measures, and to the extent that the public know what those measures are and then they are asking all the critical questions as to how we are performing. The first tranche of disbursement of $600 million US dollars will start immediately, and so we are expecting that within a week or two that will drop in our accounts. There will be the second tranche disbursement after a successful review by November, December. And so this year alone, we are expecting some 1.2 billion United States dollars. You can imagine what this will do to our balance of payment position, what it will do to our budget, because there is budget support in that as well. The remaining amount will be disbursed in equal tranches of $360 million every 6 months after a successful review. Okay, and so the money will flow, and we are very confident that they will serve the purpose in bringing about macro stability. But at the same time, we are going to continue with the debt restructuring, because we have to bring our debt levels to sustainable levels, 55% of GDP by 2028.
That full interview will air on PM Express Business Edition tomorrow, and we're expecting the IMF team to also hold a press conference on details of this particular approval. But let's get some reactions. And former Finance Minister Seth Tekpe says the deal will have consequences for the next government in 2025.
Depending on the outcome of the elections, this program is going to be continued. This will be the second time that our programs have strapped, overlapped, election years. And so depending on who wins, that government is going to continue, even if it's a new phase. Definitely, releases are going to be based on performance. And that's the essence of reviews. You remember the Deputy Minister also mentioned there will be about 6 reviews. These are constant. We had about 6-7 reviews, under the last ECF. And this is a conventional. So to repeat, this is a conventional IMF, agreement.
Let me bring in Joy Business Editor George Uyafe. Well, George, I know you have your ears and eyes in that particular meeting. What are we learning? And do we have the list of conditions attached?
Well, conditions are already captured in the document, and therefore, as we are being told that anytime the board approves a country's program, they are going to come out with a staff report. They are going to come out with things that you yourself, you said you're going to do to stabilize your economy. And so some will say that it is not something that should be seen that the IMF is forcing on you that you have to do X, Y, Z. What we understand is that there's a fact that Ghana's program is going to be considered by the board today, engaging all those who matter, the technocrats and everything. I think one interesting thing that is happening is that even though if you engage all these technocrats who matter, nobody wants to use the wording as Ghana's program is going to be approved, or as you say, is going to be considered. But Emefa, everything that supports a program approval is being done. So imagine that you're a student in class, you've done well, you've not been considered that you'll be shortlisted or you're going to win a prize. But you have been asked that, listen, wear a black shoe and a white socks. You have been asked when you come to the speech and prize giving day, come and sit at the first seat. So everything that supports a country getting the program approved by the board is being done. But you don't get the IMF telling us that our program be automatically approved. So that's what we understand that the Ghana's program will be the first to be considered when the board sits today to look at the program review, the document that the staff would also present to the board for approval.
Okay, that's Joy Business Editor George Uyafe there. Well, economist professor with the University of Ghana Business School, Godfred Bopping, says an IMF program is an indictment on the country's ability to manage her resources.
The first release is a statement of intent. The subsequent installment will be based on performance. Okay, so I would urge governments that let's wait and see what is in the program itself. What are the structural benchmarks? What are the fiscal reforms? Don't forget that in as much as the board approvals is good news, there are targets that we have to meet every 6 months of the program review. Part of the target may include increasing our tax to GDP revenue, tax to GDP ratio.
Well, we can also hear from the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bidruabwaji, who says industries would no longer afford to pay more taxes.
The impact of the 3 taxes are now going to be felt. Okay. The likelihood that it will push prices up is also there. I get worried when they say that businesses are not paying taxes. Because if a business is paying a tax, 25 different taxes, levies, and charges, and you are saying that they are not paying taxes, I get worried. What we have failed to do when we are comparing our tax to GDP to other countries is to look at the number of people who are supposed to pay taxes and those who are paying. In Ghana, out of the 15 million, only 5 million are paying.
Well, that's Mark Bedwabwaji speaks for the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So, well, today, the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission has increased tariffs for electricity and natural gas by 18.36% across the board for all consumer groups. The decision was taken after a review for the second quarter of 2023. Well, this is despite government pleas to waive the increment. But the Director of Research and Corporate Affairs at PURC, Dr. Eric Obute, says the decision was taken to balance the prevention of extended power outages and the adverse implications on jobs and livelihoods.
Quarterly reviews that we do are based on 4 key factors which we always talk about. One being the fuel price, the other one being the exchange rate variation, and another one being inflation and the generation mix between thermal and the hydro. Now, if we take the exchange rate, for instance, the exchange rate variation between the time we did the tariff last quarter and this quarter, the percentage increase is 20.58%. Last time around, we used an exchange rate of 10.54 cedis to the dollar. This time around, the projected exchange rate is 12.71 cedis.
Well, trading activities in the Ashanti region at TQ now have halted at the KTM Market in Kumasi as the electricity company of Ghana cuts off power there due to debt owed. Law FM's Mona Lisa Frimpong has more.
The KTM market has been plunged into darkness since Tuesday, May 9. Management of the market claims traders have not made full payment of bills owed to the Electricity Company of Ghana. But the traders assert they have settled all outstanding debt paid monthly to management of the market facility. Eric Nana Kwesi Prempe is chairman of the Federation of Kumasi Traders.
Management tells us the market owes ECG 5.4 million Ghana cedis. So we were at a loss as to why and how the debt could be so high. Because month in, month out, management have been giving bills to the traders, and the traders as well have been paying the monies to the management. Yet management insists the monies are with the traders.
Days after the blackout, a generator set at the facility was powered to restore electricity. This was, however, unsustainable as the traders feared the cost of fuel would be passed on to them. Today, the traders are resorting to the use of flashlights to ply their wares. Battery and cold store operators at the market are worst affected as they are recording spoilage.
Time for a quick breather here on the Midday News, live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. Our top story: Supreme Court unanimously orders Parliament to expunge the name of James Judgement from its record as Member of Parliament for Asin North as a ruse that he failed to renounce his Canadian citizenship at the time of filing nomination. We'll return with sports and then female alcoholics consuming akpeteshi above the recommended limits in the Volta region. I have details of that story.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn. You know both. You know chop. Where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor gets water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank gets meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selendion. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe, so say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho, go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's do sports. Mubarak.
Thank you very much, Emefa. Now, 24 players await their fate as the Court of Arbitration for Sports is set to release its verdict on those implicated in a match-fixing scandal in the Ashanti Gold Inter-Allies match in the 2020-2021 Ghana Premier League season. The game between the two sides at the Lenkley Stadium ended 7-0, including defender Musa scoring 2 own goals on purpose, later admitting it was to ruin a bet on the game. The players were banned by the Ghana Football Association following the outcome of an investigation. The matter is currently in the hands of CAS, and Head of Players Relations Manager at the Professional Footballers Association of Ghana, Yusuf Chipsa, says they are confident the players will win the case.
Since hearing has been done, it's close to finalizing. We're just waiting for what the final decision is going to be. We are positive because we think there wasn't enough evidence against the players, but again we also wouldn't want to speak much since the verdict is not out. That is why even after the hearing we've not made any comments or we've not spoken about it. Let's wait patiently and see how it goes. But the good thing is all the players, they were granted the stay of execution, and that is why they are all being able to ply their trade. They are playing. That is a good thing, because it would have been a very big disaster if the players were still home and couldn't partake in the ongoing season.
So that's Head of Players Relations Manager at the Professional Footballers Association of Ghana. And tonight, the big game, we have live commentary for you between Man City and Real Madrid. Who is your money on, Emefa?
None of them. I know we are going to Oliver Twist this evening. I'm looking forward to that one. But that proposed 10% public transport fare reduction started despite the agitations of some transport operators about the high cost of running commercial vehicles. Some drivers say the cost of other components used in running commercial vehicles was not factored into the reduction. We're learning, at least in Kumasi, that the drivers say they are yet to implement that reduction. The General Secretary of GPRT says the union will deploy a task force should transport operators fail to implement the 10% reduction.
It is the feedback that will inform us about that decision, that maybe that action to take. But as a coordinating body, we normally write the regions, and the regions will disseminate information to the branches to implement. So when there are feedbacks, which will take same way and get to us, and then we don't have to maybe deploy a monitoring team to go around and supervise. But we don't expect that others will have the difficulty in implementing it. We don't expect that.
That's the General Secretary of the GPRTU. A combined study by the University of Allied Health Sciences and the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has found that 66.67% of females in the Volta region of Ghana are consuming more than the recommended volume of the local alcoholic beverage at Beteshi. The findings were published in the 2023 edition of the journal Scientific African, which established consumption for the local gin not beyond 2 drinks per day. There's more in the following report.
Led by Dr. Fidelis Godo and Dr. Nee Kwole Kote at the Department of Nutrition and Dietetics at the University of Allied Health Sciences, sought to find out their potash consumption patterns and also assess the content of ethanol and contaminants such as methanol, lead, copper, and iron in their potash samples. 140 alcohol consumers were recruited for the study. Although methanol and lead were not detected, copper and iron were present and exceeded the allowed standards. The study observed high potash consumption levels among males, but increased alcohol abuse among females beyond the recommended limits of 1 to 2 drinks per day. Tani Kwole Kote.
Our study revealed that majority of the female alcoholics, about 66% in a suburb of the Volta region, are over drinking hypertension. This trend is indeed very worrying. Generally, certain distillers use rusted nails in the distillation processes, which also equally leave some heavy metal residues in our drinks. Females, especially the pregnant ones who occasionally go and drink these alcoholic beverages, are at serious health risk because the fetuses or the babies that are born later may develop low IQ.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
And just before we go, and we celebrate the life of Akwaboah, who passed on yesterday, and my colleague Richard Kujonyako takes us back into his life.
Akwaboah Sr. was a talented keyboardist and often played with some of Ghana's great musicians. The late Akwaboah took inspiration from his father, popularly known as Master Kwabena Akwaboah, who was also a musician. Was also a member of the legendary Ghanaian High Life Band, the Ohiniban Team Berima Band. Akwaboah is known for his popular song Arechiche, which he recently remade with his son Akwaboah Jr. The remake of the song, which was accompanied by a beautifully recorded studio performance, caught the attention of many and enjoyed massive airplay. Prior to his death, he was reported to have been battling with glaucoma, which made him lose his sight, and even in such circumstances, he played live band shows, exhibiting his dexterity and versatility with a keyboard and his unique voice.
And that's our show for today. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Expunge James Jachikwison's name from your record Supreme Court to Parliament. Also will discipline you first for going to the media. NDC tells Mutaka and Co. That's more on myjoyonline.com. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil is up next. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company.